He was 9 when he learned how to watch without being seen. From the slanted light under the delivery bay, he watched the glass doors catch the afternoon and learned the building's rhythm. He knew the CEO's routine by how people moved, the assistants, the guards, the way the car line arranged itself. People within the towers were predictable. Each played their part, each moved along invisible rails. He, however, lived where the rails ended. He was the boy who pushed the mop, rewired light fixtures in odd hours, and learned the faces that no one else remembered. His mother worked nights. She worked with a quiet dignity that never asked for attention. When she slept, the boy kept watch. When she coughed, he learned to find the phone and the medicine. That necessity trained him to notice detail, the rhythm of a breath, the pause in a step. That skill would later be the difference between routine and danger. On a gray Tuesday, the rhythm broke. A late meeting spilled people into the lobby. The CEO, known for leaving at precisely 6:10, emerged that day with a distracted smile and his phone still in his hand. A black sedan idled at the curb. A battered van waited a little farther down, its vinyl logo faded and wrong. The boy was sweeping when a guard's low words landed near him, nervous, clipped. He felt a knot tighten in his chest. He left the mop and ran. He cut across Marble, past startled receptionists who juggled briefcases, past corporate artworks that cost more than his neighborhood's monthly rent. He reached the curb as the CEO's hand brushed the sedan's door. The boy had never been brave in front of executives. He knew the rules. He also knew fear. He screamed, "Don't get in the car." For a dizzying second, the world around him fractured. Laughter rose, a laugh that sounded like money, then stopped as the CEO, immaculately dressed, looked up. Phones lifted, social reflex kicking in. A woman nearby clutched a child and squinted. The boy was small and scuffed and raw with urgency. "Please," he said, pointing at the van. "They're waiting." The man in the van tapped his phone. "When you came out. They'll stage an accident or something. They'll put something in the car to make you stop. Don't go." The first response was dismissal. The CEO's chuckle cracked like brittle glass. But the guard's face shifted when he checked plates. Something in the van's registration didn't fit any city record. The driver, who should have been a quiet presence, suddenly had a tightness to his jaw. The man in the van lurched as if surprised, then moved with the practiced ease of someone pretending to be surprised. Then the CEO surprised them all. Rather than call security loud or bully the boy into silence, he listened. He asked calm questions, and his calm suggested authority without spectacle. He asked his driver for plate numbers, peered at the surveillance feed, and quietly coordinated the staff. He didn't want to alarm the perpetrators but wanted to close avenues of escape. He used the building, the cameras, the front gate, the parking log, like a fisherman closing a net. The van's plan unfurled anyway. An actor, placed to look injured, tumbled out and clutched his chest by the sidewalk. Another man moved quickly to load a heavy-looking bundle into the sedan, a person-sized, awkward thing that sagged under hands. The driver of the sedan leaned in. The sedan's door gaped open like an invitation to the unseen. The CEO gave a single command and hundreds of small gears turned. Security closed the exits and blocked the lanes. Passers-by were corralled away with polite urgency. The sedan's driver glanced up, measuring, then tried to accelerate, but officers had already moved. The van's drama dissolved into confusion. The staged casualty coughed and then went limp as 2 officers took him aside. The cameras revealed the rest. A gloved hand slid an object under a blanket into the sedan. Design and timing begged interpretation. Was it a package for an assassination? A staged kidnapping? The police later said the men were specialists in creating diversions for thefts or worse. Whatever the intent, the immediate threat was stopped. After the arrests, the lobby smelled of rain and adrenaline. Reporters who had been waiting for a familiar CEO photo op found a more interesting story. A cleaner's son whose shout had likely prevented something dangerous. The boy, who had expected scolding, instead found a man in a suit kneeling to meet his level. "Why did you say something?" the CEO asked softly. The boy wanted to say many things. "Because my mother coughs at night, because I noticed the way his hand trembled, because I feared for the shape of things." He said instead, "I notice. I work here. I know when things don't fit." The CEO's eyes narrowed in a way that suggested both surprise and appraisal. He straightened. He didn't make a speech or offer praise to be broadcast. He asked practical questions. Did the boy have a name? Did he have schooling? Was there a way to help? The answer led to a set of small, concrete changes. The office arranged for a part-time, paid position on the security team for the boy. They offered to help with his mother's medical bills. It wasn't charity wrapped in spectacle. It was pragmatic. They created a training plan. They put a plastic card in his hand that read security trainee and a modest stipend that meant a month's rent paid for his mother. 2 days after the incident, the man who had staged the crash was arraigned. The van's registration was fake. The men had moved in at least 3 cities using the same pattern. The press called the CEO judicious and the company praised for quick action. But the details the public loved were not the badges or the arrests. They were the quieter consequences. Within a few weeks, the boy sat in the narrow room of the security office watching feeds with an old technician who smelled of coffee and late nights. He learned camera names, PTZ-1, West loading, and how perspective could hide a gloved hand or reveal a suspicious eye. He learned to map movement patterns. He learned that noticing wasn't only seeing, it was naming oddities out loud. He and his mother were taken to the HR manager, who explained benefits and scheduled medical help. She cried once, not from the spectacle but from relief. The boy's throat tightened watching her walk lighter through the grocery market. He had thought his shout would earn a scolding, or at worst a reprimand. Instead it had become a pivot. People noticed other things after that. The cleaning crew received a letter of commendation. Colleagues whispered they had underestimated a team member's child. For the boy, the world shifted in small increments. The receptionist held the elevator for him now. The security tech asked his opinion and then listened. Those gestures were currency. The months that followed were small renovations rather than a bright arc. He took a part-time shift in security and wore a blue vest that felt too big. He learned camera names and how perspective could hide a gloved hand. He learned to write incident reports that mattered in court. He learned that noticing wasn't only seeing, it was naming oddities out loud. His mother used the help arranged by HR to get tests and treatment. She later took a different shift and enrolled in a short medical course. The relief in their apartment was quiet but real. Neighbors noticed the change. The boy noticed how small certainties are altered by practical help. Inside the building, policies shifted. A joint fund was created for staff emergencies, routine route audits were added to security checklists, and training sessions invited input from the people who worked in the margins. The CEO never put on a speech about heroism. He changed systems. Once, a year later, his attention again made the difference. A delivery manifest seemed routine until he noticed 2 names repeated and 1 stop listed twice with different vehicle descriptions. He flagged it. The team watched the cameras and intercepted a small crew trying to move untagged equipment out through a freight exit. The theft was prevented quietly. No lawsuit, no headlines, just a grateful nod from the night supervisor and a small bonus that fed into his mother's account. That gesture, simple and anonymous, felt like proof that vigilance could be rewarded. At home, his mother framed a photograph of him in his blue vest and hung it beside the calendar. It was a small domestic miracle. A picture that used to show a boy with a mop, now showing a young man in a uniform. Her friends called to congratulate her and to ask how it happened. She always said the same thing. Watch your children closely and teach them to speak up when something is wrong. Not because she wanted accolades but because she recognized the power of being seen. Later, as a young man with a proper badge, he taught recruits to read the small things. A license plate tilted in the sun, a hand that moved like it had rehearsed surprise, a gate that arrived a beat too late. He spoke at local after-school programs, telling kids their observations were tools, not gossip. Companies brought him in to consult. Neighborhood kids sat forward when he said that their attention could be a weapon for good. The man who had staged the scheme was convicted and the company tightened protocols. But what mattered most to him was the subtle change in culture. Colleagues beginning to listen, a receptionist holding an elevator, a security tech asking his view and taking it. Those small shifts became currency. He kept the CEO's business card in his wallet. Its edges were softened, the ink faded. It wasn't a talisman for fame. It was proof that a single act and a single person choosing to listen could alter many lives. Years later he still passed the curb where the sedan had waited. He would stand a moment and remember the sound of his own voice, raw and urgent. It had been enough. That shout, imperfect and human, had rerouted a plan and started a different life. He had learned that courage doesn't wait for permission and that attention, the kind born in small rooms and delivery bays, could be the deciding difference between a normal day and disaster.